So I'm in the process of trying to address this rust on the wall here, and I'm finding out that the way they did this steel, they bent it around the corner, and that's what the skin is riveted to. So I took this trim piece off, and now I'm knocking rivets out and scraping off butyl tape and kind of trying to get an idea of what I'm going to have to do here. I think I'm going to take some little pieces of steel, try to fix this tubing. Maybe I can wedge this back a little bit and get a weld in there without having to cut this and take it all off and everything, because this is like one piece. So I really don't want to do all that. So I'll see if I can piece something together. There's a lot of corrosion here because this is the battery box. So you have the acid and gases from the batteries cause corrosion, and then of course the water bay was all messed up from just water and leaky doors and all that. So that's kind of where we're at now. Kind of felt good to get the floor in here yesterday, but it looks like the walls are going to be a little more technical than I thought, but yeah, we'll get it. I might have got a little happy with the grinder right here. Oop. Hit it with that. There's a rivet in there. Let's get that out of the way. Trying to get this all cleaned up and straightened out so I can kind of see what I've got to work with here. When they did this, they put butyl tape behind the trim. So if you look at the way this goes on like this. And they had a piece of butyl tape behind there. You can kind of see on this side. At the moment, what I'm thinking is I'm not going to put that back on there. I'm going to put like a polyurethane in the holes so that it seals. And then I'm going to put Olympic rivets in here and pull this straight down to the sheet metal. And what I'm hoping that's going to do is make this a lot less floppy and solid, to make it more solid. Could be wrong about that. You know, this butyl tape could be just kind of being like glue that keeps the whole thing, because like this one's not messed up really. It's pretty solid. So I don't know. I can put butyl tape back on it. It's not a problem. I just kind of don't like the way it chips the paint off and everything. But they may have done that because they know it's going to flex and move. So I'm cutting a template to try to fix this rust spot here. So this whole sheet is bent around like this, and that's what the you know, the rivets go into for the outer skin. And this outer skin is all one big piece, you know, with holes cut out in it for the doors. So I'm just going to kind of fix what I can get to. So that's why I'm doing just a little short piece at the bottom. So this will be welded on the face here where I can actually get to it. Down here, and then this will just be bent over, and that'll be strong, and it'll at least be something to put a rivet in. Do something like this. Should be interesting. And then really, there's really no need to cut all that out, because what I'm going to do is take this strip like that right there and run it down and fix all that bottom rust. Have to think about that. Okay, so here's what I ended up with. That'll sit in there like that. And I should be able to push it in and weld it up. I mean, this ain't got to be rocket surgery, because at the end of the day, it's going to be whatever I put, you know. Basically, I'm going to cut this out with a plasma cutter, and then I'm going to take the piece of metal and I'm going to put it up here, and then I'm going to trace around the piece of metal, and that's what I'm going to cut out of here. So really, the patch doesn't really have to be but so perfect. If something's not quite square or whatever, it doesn't matter, as long as these lines are close enough that I can fill them up with weld. So, get the plasma cutter hooked up. All right, y'all. So yesterday I wasn't in a big video mood, so I didn't do a lot of video, and I did take some pictures. But I fixed all the rusted out sheet metal that was right here, and then you can kind of see the grind lines where I ground the welds off before I primed it. But I took the DA and cleaned up this panel good, did a rust conversion on the rust that was left, and then primed it. And then while I was at it, I went ahead and primed this other side here as well on the bottom, so that when I'm done with the other side over there, it'll be ready for paint. So let me show you what I'm doing today. Got a new hose reel in here, hooked to the little pancake compressor. That's convenient. And got an air hose coming over here to the plasma cutter. Here's where I put some Seal on this electrical bay the other day. It came out pretty good. I'm happy with that. I think I'm just going to let that ride and not worry about replacing the metal in there for now. Anyway, got the plasma cutter set up, got the battery out of the battery box, so that when I start blasting molten metal in that direction, there won't be a battery in there. And then this is pretty much what I had on the other side. Down here on the bottom where it would leak in and the water would sit, between the floor and the wall, that's where it's rusted out. So the bottom's rusted out pretty much all the way up there to where it's welded on. So I'm gonna start plasma cutting out some of this stuff, and figure out what kind of patches I need to put in here, and we'll weld it back up, make it look like the other side. First thing you got to do though is this has got to come off, because this wraps around. So this has got to come off and get it out of the way, so I can see how badly it's rusted back behind here. So that's what we got. All right, so what I'm trying to do now is just fit a piece to go in here. And what I like to do is just kind of eyeball it and make marks. So I want this to come out past this hole so I can have some sort of chance at covering it up. So I need to cut back to about right there to get around that. And then it's like roughly this high. So, you know, something like this. And then it's got where that weld is, there's a little round. So I'll try to cut it kind of like that. This isn't got to be, this doesn't have to be super precise. All right, so got the ground on. Everything should be good to go here. So just see if we can plasma cut this thing. There we go. That thing right there has been one of the best investments I have made in this project. That plasma cutter. So now, see if it fits. A piece of a rivet. Go to all the trouble to chop the rivets off and they're still in my way. It's hitting right there where that weld is kind of thick. So in order to let it drop down and be kind of square, I'm just gonna take and try to trim a little bit off right there. Just gonna take the tiniest little smidgen off the edge here. He says. If I can keep my arc going. That's probably enough. Okay, now it's hitting there. No, it's still kind of hitting over there. Take a little more off. So, safety lesson of the day. This is not appropriate footwear for plasma cutting. Because when your foot is underneath there and you start blowing those sparks out, it goes right through this nice vented running shoe. I always forget when I'm getting ready in the morning that I'm doing this kind of crap, and I just put something on that's not gonna cause me to sweat to death. I think that's going to be close enough. What I can do is we'll tack it in a couple places, and then I'll take the body hammer and just tap it into place and kind of make it work, and then weld it in. But see, it's sitting, what I want is for it to sit right up against that other weld, and I'm going to bridge them together. I think that'll do it. make one more little adjustment here. Alright, so now that I got this thing kind of fitted where it needs to go, what I'm going to do is just trace it. So what I do with these long cuts is I'll just take a piece of scrap metal that has a straight edge on it, and I've got these little magnets. I forget what brand they are. Anyway, I can put a link in the description if I think about it, but basically that's just holding the metal in place, and then I'll be able to run the plasma torch down it and get a relatively straight cut. Alright. I'm debating on trying to freehand this one. Nah. I'll do a little something here. Oop. Alrighty. Just blew a hole through the side of that and a bunch of water came running out. Tell you what I can do. I can blow a hole through the bottom of it. No, I don't want to do that. So this frame is full of water. That's nice. finally got this thing lined up. And so I'm gonna put a couple tacks on it. Now if you look, I've got the back side of that thing kind of sticking out. That's because the rest of the metal's kind of bending around. So I'm gonna put some good tacks here, and then I'm just gonna kind of bend it and tack it as I go. See how that works. Oh, the wind is gonna get me today. Alrighty, so the first panel is welded in, and I think I had my heat up too high and I was kind of blowing through and getting a lot of porosity back, so I'll probably go back through and touch up this one when I do the next one. So I'm about to trace this one out and cut it out and weld it in, and while I was on the grinder I grabbed the wire brush and started working on all these little rough spots. And I'm going to hit this with DA, knock all that foam off, kind of blend it a little bit because I'm just crazy like that. And then it's prime and paint. Okay, all the metal work is done, I hope. Everything's clean, vacuumed, wiped down, ready for paint. All right, got a coat of flat black on there. I even sprayed these little supports even though they're getting covered up. I figured a little bit of extra paint won't hurt. And I was having issues with some wind, so there's kind of like some overspray streaks and stuff like that going on. I may put another coat on it. I might not. Really just trying to seal it up. It's not like it's going to get walked on or exposed to light or anything like that. I'm gonna put 5200 on here, and then I'm gonna squish a piece of Advantech down on there and screw it down. So this is really, if water ever gets in there again, it'll slow down the rust process. So anyway, that's what it looks like.